All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, the boss of the apostles, and others great millstone, sensation of us, and pushing the word in truth and sincerity and with charity, and risking our lives and freedom to do so. This is your brother, young guy, come from the great millstone, scout camp, convention, and lesson. No one's edifying. First scripture today. Um, hey, this warfare, it is a spiritual warfare. This is not a cardinal battle that we are in, okay? And I say that, because there's going to be people that will demonize us and label us, you know, as such, because speaking, you know, against uh, Esau's philosophies and basically showing y'all who the true devil is, you know, the deceiver, you know, self-proclaimed white man, who would not be considered hate speech. You know, this is all family of the word, you know, and they're doing it at a small level. Soon it'll be at a very large scale, you know. Um, Look what they did to uh, Jimmy Kimmel. Look what they did to Jimmy, you know, and how much more, what they did to him, you know, how much more the men of the Lord that's prophesying, you know, the downfall of this wicked, cruel, and evil place, man. You know, that's completely contrary to the Lord. You know, the scripture talks about how you should be hated by all men for my name's sake. You know, so if you're doing what's right to serve the Lord truly, know, you will be hated for this thing. People are gonna look at you sideways, look at you weird, and label you, you know, uh, 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 they try to label you terrorist, basically. You know, and this warfare is a spiritual battle, is a spiritual warfare. This is not a carnal warfare. And what are we? We understand the scriptures. There's going to be Jake out here, 2/3, leading unto their own understanding, and we'll try to fight E, but it's not going to work out for them, man. You can't go against what the Lord has gave the blessing of the sword to, man. All right, Esau's, his blessing is the sword, man. This man got all types of technology and biochemical warfare and all types of shit. And Jake just got a fucking uh, whatever the fuck they got. The shit that you see on in their music videos. Jay don't got shit, man. To go to war with Esau. They say it costs money to go to war, man. Esau got all that. Jay don't got that shit, man. All right, and us men of the Lord understanding scriptures, we don't partake in none of that. You know, and that will if you do, you're going off. And really doing so will prove that you don't believe and trust into the scriptures, man. You're going against what you believe. The scripture talks about how vengeance is the Lord's, man. All right, we wait upon the Lord. All right, the righteous run it. The Lord, name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. All right, no, not the righteous men run into an army tank and are safe. They run into a bunker and are safe. They run into a weapon and are safe. No, man. All right, calling on the name of the Lord, that's a spiritual thing, man. All right, and showing the Lord you have faith, trust in Him, and not into Esau's ways or his weapons, or you know. But you know, they're not worried about Jake out here game banging. What they're worried about, concerned, about is the Hebrew Israelites that's out there pushing this word. You know, the men of the Lord, from the apostles on down. All right, not the black Hebrew Israelites. I'm talking about Yasharala, man. All right, men of the Lord. That's out there in the highways and byways, man. They don't have no weapon. You know, but a two-edged sword, which is the scriptures, man. All right, and I want to prove it with the scripture right here. For scripture today in Ephesians chapter 6. Start time. It says, finally, my brother, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places. All right, let's read that again. Ephesians 6 and 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. That's not talking about an actual bulletproof vest, you know, that has the Lord's name written on it. All right, no, this is a spiritual warfare that we are in. All right, hey, you're not gonna see the men of the Lord out here in the highways and byways causing chaos. You can see men of the Lord out there in the highways and byways, pulling down the stronghold, through this word, man. All right, and that's what Esau don't like, and that's what he will try to use, and what he is going to use, demonize, the men of the Lord. They put light for darkness and darkness for light, man. All right, here you can have a transformer read to a group of fucking toddlers. Yeah, you got a problem with men of the Lord out there on highways and byways, prophesying. You know, this place is completely backwards, man. It's contrary to the Lord. Everything's contrary to the scriptures, man. You know, and doing anything, trusting, into your own might, Esau's ways, and all that, it's not gonna work out for you. You know, it won't, because this is a spiritual warfare. You know, Everything written four times written for our learning. You know, knowing that we're in a spiritual warfare, acting carnally, you not using the tools that the Lord gave us, man. You know, Jake out here, worried about all the wrong shit. You know, and you got the men of the Lord, putting on the armor of the Most High. And how's that? Through this word, you know. Hey, that's why wisdom and knowledge should be the stability at times, man. All right. Not a AK-47, not a bulletproof vest, not a bunker, not, you know, ain't all those things, man. It says wisdom and knowledge should be the stability at that times, man. All right. That's going to be our armor, you know. That's what will be our defense, you know. But let me read this. We'll end it off with this Ephesians 6:11. It says, put on the whole armor of the Most High that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil, the trickeries. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to withstand in an evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High. All right. So doing anything opposite, is off, man. You know, acting carnally, you know, it shows you have no faith in the Lord. You know, it'll go against everything you believe and talk, man. They want to label us this or, you know, we ain't that. We men of the Lord, you know, and this is a spiritual battle that we are in. All right. Let me get 2 Corinthians 10:4 says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. All right. Hey, man. Call along lay out bashing me outside. Let me get Romans 8:6. It says, for to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against the Most High, for it is not subject to the law of the Most High, neither indeed can be. All right. So, hey, man, being carnally minded is death, man. This is a spiritual battle that we are in. The time we are in some evil times, man. All right. It's only gonna get worse, man. All right. But hey, this is not a carnal battle. We're not to be carnal, and take matters into our own hands. You know, there's a spiritual warfare that we are in. So, Lord is edifying. Until next time, say shalom and a Bible ball.